According to a paper presented by L.N. Chete, J.O. Adeoti, F.M. Adeyinka, and O. Ogundele, the structure of the Nigerian economy is typical of an underdeveloped country. The primary sector, in particular the oil and gas sector, dominates the gross domestic product, accounting for over 95% of export earnings and about 85% of government revenue between 2011 and 2012. The industrial sector accounts for 6% of economic activity, while manufacturing sector contributed only 4% to GDP as of 2011. Unfortunately, since then, not much has changed. The Economic Transformation Agenda, otherwise known as Nigeria Vision 2020, set the direction for the current industrial policy in Nigeria. However, Nigeria has not quite hit the mark and is still heavily dependent on commodity exports. The industrial strategy aims at achieving greater global competitiveness in the production of processed and manufactured goods by linking industrial activity with primary sector activity, domestic and foreign trade, and service activity. The Tertiary Education Trust Fund identified a key missing ingredient in Nigeria's quest for industrial growth through research and development, or research for development as it is expressed by some. Based on this, TETFund embarked on a paradigm shift to place emphasis on the triple helix principle by bringing government, industry, and the academia together as a functioning team to crack this challenge. Under the leadership of its Board of Trustees and Executive Secretary Professor Suleiman Elias Bogoro, TETFund set a target to establish 12 centers of excellence drawn from first, second, and third generation universities across the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. Not long ago, TETFund Executive Secretary candidly spoke about his vision in an interview on the paradigm shift.
Teaching, research, and community service are the 3 main responsibilities of a lecturer. But it is very obvious that it is research that improves teaching, enhances teaching, and not the other way around. Reflect over this statement. Then you know why we are deliberately emphasizing research in our universities at this point in our history. For too long, we have overemphasized teaching, and particularly theoretical research outcomes that do not solve problems. Having said that, every one of us here today also has a big role to play in driving the advocacy for the institutionalization of R&D culture in Nigeria, not just through the establishment of the centers of excellence, critical as they are in the innovation ecosystem. Thankfully today, our unrelenting and persistent struggle for the entrenchment of R&D in its rightful place among our national imperatives have borne fruit, as we have earned not only acknowledgement but also encouragement from Mr. President, the Honorable Minister of Education, Malam Adamu, both of whom in their wisdom have enthusiastically embraced the notion of R&D as a sine qua non for technological breakthrough and socio-economic development. Esteemed colleagues, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let us all resolve to resolutely continue to hold the R&D torch aloft, chipping away slowly but surely at the lethargic resistance that still pervades our society vis-a-vis R&D. Already, the long sought-after oasis in the horizon is within touching distance as we approach light at the end of R&D tunnel.
When TETFund promises, it delivers. It didn't take too long for the agency to make good on its promise by not only inaugurating the 12 centers, but also immediately providing them with takeoff grants.
For a start, the 2020 12 TCOEs are exclusively universities. In the 2021 budget year and subsequently, TCOEs will be established in our beneficiary polytechnics and colleges of education as well, with skills development being the emphasis for the polytechnics. I do not believe there is anyone in this room today that is unaware of how dear to my heart this burning issue is. Let me once again proclaim the inescapable and universal doctrine that one has since garnered ardent adherents in the world's most successful knowledge economies, that there is but one truth to socio-economic and technological advancement. It is in R&D. And the 12 new TCOEs, 2 in each geopolitical zone of Nigeria, which we are to fund for 5 years, starting from today, with a grant of 1 billion naira each, will be at the heart of the mechanism for the attainment of our nation's aspirations.
This was followed shortly thereafter by a 2-day capacity building workshop for heads of the selected beneficiary institutions and staff of the TETFund Centers of Excellence. The next 3 editions of the Paradigm Shift will focus on the work plans of each institution as to how they intend to successfully administer and sustain these centers. Today's episode unveils the work plans from the University of Maiduguri, University of Abuja, University of Jos, and the Usman Danfodio University, Sokoto. Anchoring the session, the resource person, Professor Olukayode, kicked things off by giving key remarks.
For us as centers of excellence, there are 2 things. It's either you're establishing new programs or you are reviewing or revising existing programs. For us in World Bank Centers of Excellence, the emphasis was on postgraduate programs, new master's degree programs, new PhD degree programs, or revised master's degree programs, revised PhD degree programs. Those were the 2 things we concentrated on. And also now for us as TETFund Centers of Excellence, when we say teaching, we are looking at revised curricula. It's not you are establishing new programs. All of us have our own areas of expertise that we are concentrating on. Some of us will feel that when we turn out our graduates, we are not looking at it that somebody can have a PhD and go to work in an industry. We feel that we are not looking at that we are producing our PhD graduates even for industries that will really understand the dynamics of industries and be able to use the knowledge as acquired to be able to help the industries to grow, and that will lead to national development.
A work plan ensures proper utilization of time, resources, and budget. A clear plan gives you a sense of aim and makes you accomplish short-term as well as long-term goals. When we make a work plan, there is emergence of new ideas and methods that can be evaluated and then implemented in a proper way. The second day of the workshop began in earnest with a presentation of the work plan by the University of Maiduguri, presented by Professor Daniel Musa Giri, Director, TETFund Center of Excellence for Arid Zone Research and Development.
The vision of our center, the Center for Arid Zone Studies, is to become a center of excellence in the development of strategies to ensure sustainable development through training, research, community services, and public awareness. And our mission of the center is to use knowledge and expertise regarding resource use, biodiversity depletion, and environmental degradation as a panacea for poverty reduction and sustainable development of the Arid Zone of Nigeria. Our Center for Arid Zone Studies, Research and Development objective number 2 is to encourage and stimulate appropriate and practical input to rural projects, thereby encouraging self-sustaining rural development at project sites in harmony with the farming and other land use activities. CARS will also follow and has been following the practice it has used before, which is in line with international best practices, by advertising call for proposals for staff of the University of Maiduguri with possible collaborators from the outside of the university. We believe that we need to partner with colleagues out there who have inputs to make that we cannot harvest from within. Then the academic board of the center handles the selection process. We have an organogram, and the academic board center handles the process of the selection of the research topics that will be funded, Successful proposals are usually funded, and the principal investigators sign necessary documentation as a part of engagement with the center. We want commitment, we want delivery. To ensure quality assurance, part of the agreements to be signed with the principal investigators is usually the method of dissemination of the research result, one of which should be publication in highly reputable journals. CAS will continue to explore new partnerships, and the partners that we're focusing in at present and in near future are the National Agency for the Great Green Wall that we have been partly working with. As I round up, we'll also be partnering with the Northeast Development Commission and the Lake Chad Basin Commission and the Food Security Program of the federal government supported by the Central Bank of Nigeria.
The University of Abuja followed, giving details on the modalities for sustainable operation of the TETFund Center of Excellence for Public Governance and Leadership. This presentation was made by the director of the center, Ademola Araoye.
Public governance and leadership, three concepts are very, very critical for any analytic exfoliations of the challenges that we have. And which are these central points? This is the first thing is power. The second thing is authority. And the third thing is legitimacy. It is the interaction of society with these three major concepts that either establishes political stability and good governance and good leadership or not. So, our first duty is to critically interrogate mainstream understandings of the nature of power, authority, and the legitimacy, and the manner of their deployment in public governance paradigms, especially in the African environment. It's very important. What we are saying is this: these theories and conceptual frameworks that underpin governance have to be looked at again, because they in itself have certain issues. They are based on certain conceptual and abstractions that are not particularly sometimes relevant to our own environment. So we have to deal with that. That is part of our mission. The vision of the center is to be a world-class research center reputed for generating new and original perspectives, conceptual frameworks, and analytic tools to illuminate the phenomenon of governance. Now, in saying that, we will be looking at the military, civil society, gender, youth, religion, knowledge-driven systems, and culture as they impact public governance and leadership. Our approach basically will be based on international best practices.
The work plan presented by the Usman Danfodio University TETFund Center of Excellence for Urology and Nephrology provided perspective for day-to-day tasks, putting them in context relative to concrete objectives during the plan's timeframe. This clarity was provided by Professor Ismaila Mungandi.
Initially, we conduct workshops on research and grant writing, skills development, seminars, short courses, MSc, PhD, membership and fellowship programs, the professional, and hope to integrate the fellowship training with MSc and PhD so that our professional colleagues will be prepared for research. We have also training of nurses, neurology, dialysis, technicians, etc. And post-fellowship training in difficult areas like reconstruction, complex behavior repair, kidney transplant, urodynamics, and laparoscopic urology surgery. Our research plan will be in the areas of kidney diseases, transplant, nephrology and immunology, biology of urologic cancers and early cancer diagnosis, various therapies, for prostate diseases, development of erectile dysfunction therapy. We want also to develop devices for the diagnosis treatment of urologic diseases. We want to go into tissue and organ bioengineering. This is very important, and we also look at complex VVF and female urinary incontinence and issues related to disorders of sex development. Apart from TETFund support, money generated through trainings, royalty from products, clinical care, and high-tech digital surgeries that we'll be conducting, research, other grants, capital, university, and possibly UD support, because we're in the clinical area. Also hope to have support from Friends of Urology. We're already developing Friends of Urology, Nephrology, donors, philanthropists, and we want to innovate and create a urology museum that will have the spectrum of cases, devices, and treatment options for rapid learning, for visitors, for patients to select from, and this we think will also help us generate some revenue.
To round up the first session, the director of TETFund Center of Excellence on Food Security, University of Jos, Professor Paul Amaza, disclosed details of the institution's strategic plans.
Food security is very, very critical to our nation's development. You can see from that table, the level of food security has worsened between 2008 and 2020. In fact, by 2026, the level of food insecurity has increased by almost 17%. And the percentage of rural population that are undernourished is about 92%. The research plans includes the following: to identify the productivity and promotion of value chain of acha and so on. Development of data sets for agricultural crops in Plateau State is going to generate baseline data which we'll use in our research plans. The approach is generation of baseline data for research and development, postgraduate trainings, applied research on target crop and livestock value chains, disseminate research output for adoption by the private sector, build the capacity of farmer groups, undertake policy workshops, policy dialogues, prepare policy briefs to create awareness among relevant policymakers on the outcomes of our applied research that requires policy formulation, policy action, and policy implementation. We are going to organize short courses and trainings to attract some revenue to the center. The same thing with postgraduate trainings. We're going to be involved in research winning proposals. Also, we'll be engaged in food security related institutional-based consultancy. We'll also solicit for funds for specific research focus from the private sector and donor agencies. We explore agencies like the AFDB, the World Bank, AGRA, and so on. And also, we hope to have patents on developed technologies, especially seeds, since we have a lot of breeders at the University of Jos. We are hoping that they'll be able to come up with some improved varieties of seeds, and then they will have some patent right and other technologies.
Conducting research that is both practically relevant and scientifically rigorous, while also making a great societal impact, is a continuous challenge for scholars and universities. In today's society, we live in a time with a high pace of changes leading to a constant need for new competences and skills. The mobility of scientific competences from universities to industrial firms enables the firms to absorb and utilize the knowledge developed in academia. Increased competition and globalization in engineering communities are motivating industrial and academic institutions to improve their collaborations. The role of the government through TETFund is to foster this relationship, bringing it ever closer in a manner that would help us achieve a knowledge economy that is prosperous and resilient. On the next edition of the program, we will take a peek into strategic work plans from Bayero University, Kano, Michael Okpara University, Umodike, Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Oka, and the University of Ibadan.
I purposely marked that word day, the Center of Excellence for Root Crop Research and Development in Nigeria. Why did I mark it? Like I said, I have a root crop research institute by my side. We are not in competition, but I have to, with my colleagues, work hard to make our voice heard above them a little bit. Our mission is to engender a paradigm shift towards cutting-edge research in root cause and tuber research and development that will lead to food security in the country. We expect to have 50 graduate students trained in root and tuber crop in the next 5 years. This is not too much because as at now, we have a kind of a training program with FARA, and they are training master students for us. We are having about 35 master students already, so I'm already covered a little bit. So cotton industries that will process root and tuber crops will spring up for the center.
The sustainability plan of the center include cost of samples analysis and non-destructive testing services, sales of fabricated energy efficient products. We have already designed a number of them, including cost efficient cook stoves that you can be able to also use to charge your cell phone. We have done the design. We are just going to go into fabrication once we get the funding for that. The professional must have domain expertise, must be able to solve problems, and must have entrepreneurial skills.
So our vision is to contribute to enhancement of national economic development through translational research in the biomedical, agricultural, and engineering sciences. And then our mission is to focus on innovative and incremental research. By innovative and incremental research, we mean research that is either innovative or based on previously developed research. So it's an incremental research. We are working on a rapid test kit that will detect Lassa fever within 5 minutes. And then we are using very advanced technology on that. We want to base it on urine. So from the urine, we pick several proteins that can identify the Lassa fever virus. So the test will just trying to use a monoclonal antibody to pick those antigens and then report whether it's negative or positive. So it will do that within 5 minutes.
We want to look at Nigeria and the Sahel, look at the emerging security threats and interventions. The second is environmental security and natural resource governance. The third is oil, energy, and maritime security. Then we are looking at health security, which is very important in conflict and emergency situations, looking at child and maternal and mental health. Because you would have seen even in the coverage of COVID, mental health is something that we always seem to ignore, but it's very key, to what we're doing. Most of all, we want to ensure that Nigerian scholars and African scholars at large, would have the capacity to work on issues of national defense and security, and that we can be better linked with peers in other parts of the world.
And that is the paradigm shift.